Okay, so how to read a poker book, and this is something that I've found interesting, in academia and teaching. I'd see students sitting in the hallway reading the required reading for my class, and I'd stare at them like, it's not reading, dude. You're just sitting there reading. Reading requires an active process, and I'll talk about that here. But I really feel that people don't read poker books the best. So we're going to talk about that. Okay, number one, you can't approach a poker book like it's gospel. I don't care who's written it. I don't care if that person's won $100 trillion playing poker and they're the best poker player in the world. It doesn't mean what they're saying is going to be right for you. So you have to approach every single thing you read with a grain of salt. Every single thing you read with a critical eye and be evaluative. It's very, very, very important. So don't just read and apply. Just, read, let it go through your filters of what's good, what's right for you, what's not right for you, and then try to apply the information. The second thing is make all the information you read your own. So when most people read a book and they take notes, they'll take out an exact passage. They'll write down an exact passage. Don't take notes like that. Take the notes that they're for you. So if there's an example or if there's an explanation of a document or of a strategy or of a play, describe the play to yourself. Don't say floating means to blah 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 blah. Make it your own, because if you make it your own, you're more likely to remember it. It's also going to show, when you read, I would also highlight or write down how this information would help you. So you read a certain thing and you're like, oh, make a note, I keep doing this, try not to do this in my game, okay? So read the book and always think about yourself when you're reading it. Selfish reading, we can call it. Also, I want you to constantly argue with the information. So everything you read, doubt it. So approach it from a perspective of I'm not really sure if that works, especially if it works for you, right? But create a critical eye, because what tends to happen is when you doubt information and the information's good enough that it keeps permeating, it'll stick more. It's more of an active process. It's more of this back and forth of I don't agree, I agree, and after you think about it like that, the concepts will solidify much easier. Do this thing. I love doing this. Key takeaways. So every time I read a book, for the most part, I write down 5 to 10 key takeaways. Because you read a whole book, read an entire book, and at the end, oh, that was good. And then freaking 3 months later, 4 months later, you remember one thing, and then 5 years later, you don't remember anything about that book. Well, I want to know what are these 5 big points in each book? What are the things that we should take away from? So maybe you learned something about, implied odds and how you've been thinking about that incorrectly, or you learn some sort of, forward thinking and about, thinking along multiple streets is one thing you take out of a book. It doesn't matter. It's just I want you to get down 3 to 5 takeaways, because at the end of the day, if you forget every single thing in that book, at least you have 5 things. And if you have 5 things that you know and that you've indoctored and you multiply that by 10 books, now you have 50 concepts that you didn't have before. So that's really, really, really good. Another thing, which I think I'm going to start on this channel, is some sort of book club or something. I don't know, this book club sounds corny, but get 5 people, 5 friends together, all read a poker book. Say to yourselves, all right, we're going to start reading today, we're going to finish the book in 3 weeks, and then have a back and forth discussion about it. Compare your key 3 to 5 takeaways, argue the concepts. I've gotten into if you put me in a room with a pretty decent player, a good player, a really good player, and we both read a book, I guarantee you at the end of it, we're going to have different opinions. It's just that's the way it works. Everybody doesn't always agree on anything because everybody's style is differently. I approach everything, especially from my read, from a coaching perspective. So I'll read books and I'm like, yeah, this is a good information for a really good player, but for some guy who walks in Barnes and Nobles and doesn't know how to play poker, he picks up this book, he's gonna be like, what the hell are you talking about? So that's how I approach because that's what I do. I coach. So coaching and playing are completely different things, and I kind of think writing a poker book and playing poker are completely different things. So it's something to be mindful of, and if you have more of an opinion or a greater amount of people with you, you can have this back and forth discussion, and I think it'll be a much better, you'll learn a lot more, and you'll be more accountable for this stuff, so it's really good. So I might put something together, but in the meantime, I strongly recommend you pick a book and you get a couple people around. And next week or the week after, I'll start doing book reviews. So I'll start with the book, I'll review it, I'll talk about the 3 to 5 concepts that you can get out of this book, what I think are good, what I think are bad. I think it'll be really helpful. If you have any suggestions for what books you want me to start with, comment. All right, guys, have a good one.